feet of the chain run. And how do you do that? First 6 seconds, point 8 to 20 feet, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go.
Welcome to the Morning Scoop World Order. It is Wednesday, August 17th. I can't believe I'm saying that. We are a little over 2 weeks out from the Notre Dame game against Ohio State. Camp is in full tilt. It's about the halfway point right now. The guys get out of the hotel in 4 days on Saturday. They cannot wait. I know those guys they can't wait to get out. So appreciate you guys. We have Bill the Bank Greene on the show today. We have Phil Steele tomorrow, which is going to be fantastic. So again, appreciate you guys loving the content, commenting. This show, we're talking heavy recruiting show with the bank on here. Which recruit would you like Ohio State to land to finish out the season? Leave that in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel. Again, that all adds up for us. We hit these algorithms, and then we hit this big tidal wave of views, and it's all because of you guys. So thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Keep cranking it. So without further ado, I got the bank. Bank, how are you today?
Good, man. How we doing?
I'm doing good, man. So, Ohio State's in camp right now. I got some unfortunate news about Evan Pryor.
Yeah.
It's brutal. You've been around a lot of football in your life, a lot of camps. What is your thought process going forward if you're running that program, in terms of physicality of practice, in terms of, keep a Trey Henderson in bubble wrap? Like, what would you do when you lose a guy? He's not a starter. He's not even the backup, but he's a talented guy. And the problem is now you're one knee injury away from being really up the creek if something happens to minor Trey. How would you manage this going forward over the next couple of weeks before Notre Dame?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to hit in camp. I really do. And I know the modern way is trending away from that, but I think you have to hit. And I think it's a byproduct. It's something you hate to see. And I think the last time we did this show, you asked me, well, what was I looking for Ohio State out of camp? And it was for C.J. Stroud to not get hurt. Now, nobody's hitting that dude. I can promise you that. And nobody's hitting Trey Henderson. I wouldn't think, maybe a little bit, but you got to hit. It's football. I mean, and I think when you don't hit, I think it leads to missed tackles. I think it leads to blocking. It's not crisp. You have to do it. It's football. And, I don't know, maybe, your thought on that would probably be more relevant than mine. You played. I mean, I think Urban liked to hit, right?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how Trust looked at it. Urban liked to mash.
Oh, what's funny is, Trust, he kind of gets this, because he, wore a tie and, vest and stuff. But no, Trust, he ran a physical camp. Like, I mean, that was the thing is like my senior year, for instance, we were not very talented on offense. We had Todd Beckman, Beanie Wells. We had Heartlander Robisky, but, they were young. They never started before. So we were going to have to be ground and pound. We're going to have to run the ball a lot and be good against the run. So we ran the ball a lot, which meant a lot of inside run, a lot of physical drills, a lot of live drills, tackling, blocking. So, what does that lead to? Well, Beanie Wells ran for about 1,800 yards. We were really good at running the ball, and our defense was number one in the nation against the run. We gave up like 67 yards a game. Now, granted, I know football is much different than it was then, but I think that there's something to be said about being physical in practice in terms of running the ball and how it teaches your defense how to fit and defeat blocks in the running game. So I think that, like, because again, you only have so many hours in the day. So, when we have a fantastic passing offense and that's what we're really great at, that's amazing. But, the problem is then you might not get as much run work and then when you play a Michigan or a Utah, it kind of rears its ugly head. So that's something where, I'm always pro physical camp, because I just think that it's, you got to callous these guys. It's no different from Hell Week with the Navy SEALs. Like, you can't back it down. You can't tell them, because like the thing as well as I know is Kirby Smart and Nick Saban aren't toning anything down, and they are getting after it down south. Nope. And so when you go and face those guys in battle, you better be pretty bucked up and tough. So that's my thought on it. I always err on the side of an Urban was almost extreme to the point where he would be like, we are gonna beat the tar out of these kids in camp. And like, I would sit there and I'd be like, man, I don't even know if I could have made it through 2 days of this stuff. But our 6-7 team in 2011 that wasn't real good and wasn't real turf turns into a 12-0 team. And I don't think they were that great of a team. They weren't that talented, but they were really tough. So sometimes that grit can help you beat Wisconsin on the road and beat Michigan, and you never know when you're going to need it. Your thoughts after you got my answer, is that what you agree with, Bank?
Yeah, totally. I mean, plus,
Yeah.
if you look at the difference between like college and NFL, in college, you get 85 guys on scholarship, another 20 walk ons. NFL, man, you have nobody compared to that. You got half the many. So, NFL, I might scale back a little bit, but yet in college, man, I think you got to mash. You got to be ready for the season. Now, once we get into the season, I probably would tone it back a little bit in practice, but up till game one, man, we're going to hit until game week. We have
Yeah.
to. There's no way around it. And you hate to see a guy get hurt. And I don't know the nature of how Evan Pryor's injury occurred. Did it occur in a drill where they were hitting, or was he out in the open cutting? I don't know. I don't know how that injury occurred. I don't know if
Yeah.
it's a result of physicality or just a bad cut. But
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of those that
bottom line,
happen
you
just
gotta
from
hit.
planning. Yeah, I
Yeah.
couldn't agree more about hitting and a physical camp. And I think that the one difference this year, because I talked to Jim Trussell about this, is I asked him, I was like, Coach, when you're getting ready for a really good opening game as opposed to like a MAC school or a one AA school, Youngstown State, whatever. Because my senior year we opened with Youngstown State, so I was like, what was it like when you were getting ready to play Youngstown State versus when you get ready to play, a Tech? They played Texas Tech the one year; they were decent.
Yeah.
I mean, there haven't been a lot of like huge week one games in the last 20 years for Ohio State. But what's it like? And he's like, well, when you're opening with like a MAC school, he takes training camp all the way up to game time. Like, I mean, he's physical, not backing down at all. He's like, if you're ready for a top 5 team, you might back it down a little bit because, if you beat the tar out of them and they got to play Akron, they're still going to win. There's not going to be any, tight. There's not going to be any tightness there. But when you're ready to play like like a USC or a Notre Dame, and we've played a lot of those teams in week 2. We played
Yes.
Notre Dame week 2, Texas week 2.
Right.
But we haven't seen one week 1, which is that's a big thing. So it'll be interesting to see what Ryan does with that going forward. But with that being said, I got to get right into some of the stuff you were talking about today because I'm super excited about this. So Keon Keely is a kid out of Tampa, and he looks like a guy that looks like he should be dressing and starting for Notre Dame. He is not. He is a senior in high school. Really a physically gifted kid. You dropped a little bit of knowledge in your bank blog. Tell us a little bit about Keon Keely, kind of how his recruitment has gone so far and where it potentially could be going.
Yeah, he's been committed to Notre Dame, for a while now. And the news I'm getting is that he is not going to Notre Dame. And, I'm expecting a decommitment. I never know when these things could happen. I don't think he's going there. And, whether he announces it publicly or I don't know, but I think it's Alabama or Ohio State. And I expect to see him in the horseshoe when they play Notre Dame. Could be kind of awkward for him. And I don't know if that's official or unofficial. I don't know that. I wasn't told that, but I was told to expect to see him as a guest of Ohio State that day, which is huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Real quick, your thoughts on the fact that we have the marquee night game early in the season. And, sometimes early in the season, pretty much every game is done by, Friday night. There might be some Saturday night games, but there's Thursday night opening games. There's Friday night games. What are your thoughts on the draw of Ohio State having the marquee night game? I mean, even the Alabama-Texas game is an afternoon game, which is kind of shocking to me.
Yeah.
But what does that do for recruiting for Ohio State when you've got the marquee night game week 1 and you're basically going to have every eyeball in the country on this game?
Yeah. Well, the one thing it does is, I don't know what the percentage is, but I would guess a very, very high percentage of high school football is going to be played on Thursday or Friday. Still a lot of Saturday games across the country, but I think the high percentage is going to be Thursday or Friday. And when you play that Saturday night game, that allows people that live, 1,000 miles away, the Florida kids, California kids, Texas kids, they can get here now. Where a noon game is tough. If you're flying from California and you're trying to make that work, That's not the easiest thing in the world. But a Saturday night game allows every kid from across the United States to be here if he wants to be here. And,
Mm-hmm.
I know Carnell Tate, Brandon Ennis, Cedric Hawkins, Mark Fletcher, they're all coming from Florida. Now, if this was that big noon kickoff, would they be here? I don't think so. So that's the one thing is when you play Saturday night, you can darn near be assured that you could be, JT Tuimoloau could have been here, playing in Washington on a Friday night back in the day. So that's the thing I like is it allows you to target just about every kid on your board and try to get him in for that game.
Yeah, and with it being, an in-season game and being able to host an official, like you can pay for that red-eye flight or that early morning flight, and you can arrange the transportation. They can stay at the Blackwell, which you can book, which is the hotel right on campus where the team stays. So you can kind of make it an all-encompassing, trip where, you can say, hey, we'll have someone at the airport at 5 a.m. when you land if you take the 10:30 red-eye from Washington State to Ohio or whatever. It's just, it makes it easier when it's an official as opposed to an unofficial. Unofficials are kind of they're nice, but they're kind of tough because you've got parents that don't know their way around and they can't get picked up by the staff, and it was always interesting managing these. And plus, when you're gonna have this huge weekend, I mean, Ohio State's I can't even imagine managing all these kids, getting ready for the game, coaching the game. Like it's going to be a long weekend for these coaches, man. Because I remember balancing, usually it was like our Michigan game or whatever, and these recruits would be in town. It's just tough because the biggest thing is you got to win the game. You can't go out and lay an egg against Notre Dame when you're a double-digit favorite, and then because you're worried about a kid getting into town or whatever. Yeah. So it's going to be fascinating. But you feel like Ohio State has a shot, but not like, obviously, going against Bama is never easy, but you think they at least have fun. Yeah, going against Bama in anything is not fun, let alone, recruiting or on the playing field, but you think they at least have a shot.
I do. And I think if he announces a decommitment publicly, I think you're going to see a lot of crystal balls coming in for Alabama just because it's Alabama. I'm telling you, they've got a shot. The guy pretty close to this has told me Ohio State is really in great shape for Keon Keely. So, take that for what it's worth. When you're going against Nick in anything, you'd much rather be going against anyone else, for Keon Keely. But it is what it is, and you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. So I think Ohio State's in this one for sure.
Yeah, I love that. So we're going to move on to one of your South Florida Express guys, Edwin Joseph, Shabana Julian. Give me the background on this kid. Why should Ohio State fans be interested in him? He's a guy that you really like. Tell me a little bit about Edwin Joseph.
Well, all my guys, my South Florida Express guys, when they tell me that there's a guy that's misranked, I pay attention, and they love Edwin Joseph. He's listed as a wide receiver on all the recruiting sites, and he's listed as like a 3-star, but they're telling me this is a 4-star cornerback in the making, and they're spreading the word. Those guys, the South Florida Express, and those guys have contacts all over the country. So I expect this offer list to explode, and I expect his ranking to go up. This could end up being a high Power 5 kid, just going off what they're telling me. He's long, he's quick, he's active. They love the guy, so, and they're pretty sharp on their evaluations. So, I'm expecting Edwin Joseph. I don't know that he's going to be an Ohio State guy, but he might be. It's a school that is very pro Ohio State. They have Ryan Turner, Kenyatta Jackson, so might be a name to watch, just something to throw out there for cornerback recruiting. I know Ohio State knows about him. So see where this thing goes. It's a guy I think is really going to blow up in the next month. And I think the Power 5 offers are coming for this kid.
Yeah, I love that. It was interesting when we were dealing with the Dijon Johnson thing a couple weekends ago. Yeah. I listed him as a 5-star number 1 corner in the country. And people were like, well, where is that Cremani McClain? I was like, well, I go based on what Bill's South Florida Express guys say, because if they say that this guy is better than Cromartie McClain and he's the number one guy, like, because again, I've met a lot of the guys that do the rankings, and I'm sure they're great people, but like, your South Florida Express guys are the most unbiased,
They don't
ruthless. Yeah, they're the
Yeah.
most ruthless evaluators there are, and they will say this kid stinks, this kid's good, this kid's underranked, this kid's overrated, this kid's
Yeah.
he's scared, he's lazy, he's not going to make it. So, give me like a sample evaluation, for instance, with Dijon. Like, what did they say about Dijon versus Cromartie? Because, and again, you told me that they said Dijon he's the guy that they're not taking out. Yeah, he's better. So, when you hear that, like, how does that mentally, because we don't have a ranking system. We're not affiliated with Rivals or On3 or anything like that. But
Right.
that mentally, when they say that, I trust their evaluations. I trust how, again, you've talked to those guys, and I love their style because they just don't care. They don't care about offer lists or star rankings, or they just trust they trust their eyeballs. And then they see these kids in camps and game film and 7-on-7 tournaments, and they tell it like it is. But I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, with South Florida Express, I mean, they have Cromartie McClain and Dijon Johnson on their roster.
Mm-hmm.
So those are their kids.
Yeah.
And they love Cromartie. I mean,
Yeah.
and the difference may be that when we're talking about recruiting, or the recruiting evaluations and the star rankings, when I did them, for Scout or 24/7, I was always looking 4 or 5 years down the road, 3 years down the road. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think when you talk to them about that, they would probably say that Cromartie has a higher ceiling but a lower floor. And they're looking at winning these 7-on-7 tournaments. They want to be the best 7-on-7 team in the country. So they're worried about today. And today, they trust Dijon more than they do Cromartie in their 7-on-7 stuff. But again, Cromartie is, man, he's got, he's Richard Sherman in waiting, but right now they say Dijon's the better player. So, that may be the difference between recruiting rankings and, today. But they love Dijon and they love Cromartie. They think both of them are deserving to be Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, Texas, USC recruits. That's who they think those kids are.
Yeah, and that's always a fascinating thing that I don't know if people understand, like, how much of the rankings when they do, a 4-star, 5-star, how much of it is where they are now versus where they project out to be. It's kind of like you draft a guy in the NBA draft, and he's, a 17-year-old, from Europe, and he's 7 feet tall and he can shoot 3-pointers, but he's going to be over there for 3 years stashed or something. And it's kind of interesting because I always assume that when a guy's a 5-star, he is like a walk in the door, compete to be at least in the 2 deep and potentially even start if it's a certain position type of guy, as opposed to it being a project. Because the thing I love about 7-on-7 football, and I know you do too, is there's no hiding in 7-on-7 football. Yeah.
No, they'll find you. They're going to find you. If
you're a corner and you didn't go to bed till 4 a.m. and you're playing video games, you're tired and you're not with it, they're going to torch you in 7-on-7. When they're
continuously over and over and over and over. Urban always talked about playing find the fish. That's what 7-on-7 football is. That's all it is find the fish. And then you just abuse him every single play. There's nowhere to hide. You're out there naked. So
Urban had a couple. He had find the fish. He had find the neck roll. Like the linebacker that has the giant neck roll, and he had find the knee brace. So like if there's some cornerback out there with a Don Joy knee brace on, it's like that's the guy we're going to throw at every single snap. So, and a guy like Anthony Schlegel, who I love to death, he had a knee brace and a neck roll. So I was like, man, Urban would have worn you out, Schlegs. Option routes to Percy Harvin in the slot all day. But that's why Urban. I mean, if there's a guy that I loved being in the office with, now he was like working. I mean, he was a absolute taskmaster, mother effer as a boss, and I love him to death because it was every day it was 4th and an inch, but he had some amazing one-liners when we worked. I would just be like, oh my God, that is hilarious that you just said that. So
the first time I heard find the fish the very first time was when Tebow and the boys, beat you guys, and they were talking about
Oh,
Antonio Smith.
oh no, I heard about that because he
Okay, that's the first time I heard the phrase, and
Urban,
and I heard it from Jack Youngblood,
yeah, so
former
just
NFL Hall of Famer. He was
oh
telling
yeah,
me that was the approach.
brokenly. Oh, he Urban
He was the
made
guy.
Urban made an Antonio Smith jersey, like a practice jersey. He bought like a
Oh,
white
I didn't
jersey
know
with red
that.
letters. Well, he made a practice jersey, and he made Lewis Murphy, Percy Harvin, and Bubba Caldwell. They taped it to the floor of the when you walk in from the practice field, and he made the receivers wipe their cleats on it every time
I
they
did not
walked
know
into
that.
the building. I was just
Wow,
like, oh my god, he was the dude. Urban is the best, man. I was like, oh
wow.
my god. So
Yeah, I
those
never
guys,
heard that one.
no, every day they were wiping their cleats on Antonio Smith because, like, one of some young cat in the building, found out that Antonio Smith was a walk on, like a
Walk
former walk on.
on. Yep,
So yeah, so when you say that to Urban, like the sirens start going off, he's like, oh my god, walk on.
yep.
Let's find out more. Let's study this kid a little bit closer. Like, oh, he's not. The other guy's Malcolm Jenkins. He's probably gonna be a first round pick, and this guy is a former walk on. That's the guy. That's the guy we're going
Yep.
after. And that's why,
That's our guy.
again, that's why Urban's Urban. Like Urban was like he was just a monster. Just he would find that matchup and just destroy it. And if you're not going to send the cavalry to help that guy, and then you got to unbalance your defense, then he's going to wear him out. That's why he was one of the greats of all time. That's why he won so many games because he'd find those matchups and he would beat the tar out of them. So I,
Well, the year Ohio State murdered Urban's last game against Michigan,
yeah,
when they just demolished him, in the shoe. I
yeah.
can't think of the Michigan DB's name.
Oh
I mean,
God,
they just annihilated that guy during that game, and it was so funny because there were former players on the sideline. I think it was Mike Thomas and Cardale Jones, I think, and,
yeah.
and they were like, "He's over here, he's over here." They were pointing to the guy every time the Ohio State would break the huddle. They would point to that Michigan DB and be yelling and screaming, "Here he is! Here he is!" So they
Yeah,
knew where the fish was.
yeah, I was sitting up high and I was watching that game in the stadium, and literally we would find the guy. We were looking like,
Yes,
where's he at? There he is,
yes.
and they would throw it right at him, right over his head. He just because we had Paris and Terry McLaurin, and we had guys that
Yep,
could really,
yep.
really, really run. So it's like when you have these guys that can get loose. I mean, if that guy doesn't get him
The
to the
fish
ground,
was
they're going.
dead.
Yeah, the fish is getting deep fried. It's like I
And
mean, it
plus,
was.
Don Brown, he was going to play man and blitz.
Uh,
So somebody, the fish had to cover someone. And usually
yeah.
it was Paris Campbell,
Oh
which,
God.
goodbye.
Yeah. Yeah, I know exactly. And Devin Bush, I remember he got hurt in like the first quarter of the
Yes.
game, and I was like, every domino is breaking our way. Everything's falling our way right now. So it was just one of those days, and we went into that game as an underdog, and that's why
Yeah.
with Notre Dame being a double digit underdog, it's like that's why I always do I feel like we're gonna win? Yeah. Do I feel like it's gonna be close? Yeah, but. Sometimes teams walk into a fist fight. And Michigan that day walked into a fist fight, much like we did this past year up in Ann Arbor. We
Yes.
walked into a fist
Yes.
fight, and we beat Michigan State by like 70 points, and Michigan State beat Michigan, and then we go up there and we just walk into a beatdown, and like they thought
Yep.
it was going to be easy, and it wasn't, and it was really hard, and it's a painful lesson, but that's just part of a young team and a young coach and not handling that
Yeah.
environment well. Because I mean that
Yeah.
place is like it's hell.
I really don't even know how to look at this Ohio State game with Notre Dame. I mean, I think that point spread, that is outrageous. A 16 point spread. It's outrageous. And,
Mhm.
and Vegas doesn't give money away. They do
No,
not give money away. They build those buildings. They keep building them. They're not going out of business. They're
Ugh.
not in. So, but then, you always hear coaches, well, I don't know if they do anymore, but in the old days, they used to always say the most improvement you have comes from game 1 to game 2. So it's almost like that first game, there's like a window there maybe for the underdog. I don't
Mhm.
know. I need to put more thought into this, and we'll have something on the, in our gambling thread,
Oh
between
yeah,
Patio Harold and Tress and those guys, I'll
yeah.
have something on that game. And right now, man, I'm struggling here with the Ohio State Notre Dame game. I need to hear a few more things here.
Yeah, it's a huge number, and it's like I mean, don't really believe Notre Dame's a top 5 team, even though the AP thinks they are. But I don't know if that's a function of there not being 5 good teams in America this year, or there's only 2 or whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, that seems like a really lofty ranking for a team that just lost their bowl game and has a rookie head coach, has a new quarterback. They're like their 5th. Why they lost 2 receivers this week for the season. Like, it's like they're having worse luck than we are because they lost their best
Oh my
receiver.
God.
So I mean, they're like,
But they got your boy Harry Heastand back, and they'll watch that Michigan tape last year of Ohio State. They're gonna watch that 7,000 times.
Oh yeah,
Because that's their only path to victory. That's their only path. They can't get in a 45-44 game with Ohio State like maybe Alabama can, and maybe willing to go up and down with you all day long. Notre Dame can't do that. Their only path they only have a slim path, and it's the Michigan tape. That's their only path to victory. So your boy Harry Heastand has to have his guys, A++, all 5 of them.
Yeah, and I mean, you're gonna watch that Utah tape too. I mean, because Utah watched the Michigan tape, and they did the same thing. They ran for 250 plus, and the key when someone hurts you, when a team hurts you, the way that Michigan hurt us, we're gonna see that every single game until we stop it. So every team when we see Wisconsin, what do you think they're gonna try to do?
Iowa,
Iowa,
Penn State,
Michigan State, Penn
State,
State,
Michigan. I mean, buckle up this year. If you're playing defense for Ohio State, you better come,
strapped,
come loaded, man, because that's the only way. That's the only path these teams have to beat Ohio State is to get them in a 30-28 game, not a 48-47 game. You have no chance. You can't get to 47. You just can't. It's a very slim path this year for Ohio to lose a game. I think. Not saying it can't happen. But I think everybody's going to have the same basic approach. We'll see. We'll see. Somebody may sling it around and try to take advantage of those DBs. We'll see.
I think your source you had last year, who like the day or two before the Michigan game said this
morning
is 7-on-17. The morning of that was like a prophet came down and said they're a 7-on-17. They're not tough. They don't like to get hit. They haven't played a full game. It was like he watched the game, in the future and came back to the past and said, "Hey, this is what's going to happen. They're going to be physical. They're going to hit these receivers. They're soft." And I remember reading that. And I was like, nah, we got our line's good, and they're all right. Michigan's okay. And then I was watching that game. I was like, oh my God, this was a absolute buzzsaw that's going through our team right now.
Yeah, and that came from someone who is no longer at Michigan. It was someone I will never say the name or his position or anything. But it was somebody that actually called me like at 6:00 in the morning that day to ask me if I went to a high school game the night before. He wanted to ask me about a high school kid, and I'm like, just off the top of my head, it was just a throwaway line. I just said, "What's Harbaugh think about today's game?" And he said, "You want to know what he thinks? This is what he told the team last night." I don't think the guy thought I was going to write it, and I would never use his name, but I thought, man, this is so good. I got to write this. And then if Ohio State blows them out 52-10, we can laugh about it and tee-hee about it for a year. And now we're like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Uncle Harbaugh, Uncle Jimmy had that one right. He gets it right every once in a while.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, he got to a Super Bowl. I mean, he takes a lot of crap, but I mean, he got to the Super Bowl, so it's like he was a play away from winning it too. So, it's going to be interesting. Like he's had an interesting tenure up there because, like you said, when he was interviewing with the Vikings on National Signing Day, that was the most insane thing I've ever seen in college football. It was like the biggest FU you could ever do, and then he comes back
to your own employer, to your team, to your players, to your coaches, to your fans. To your employer. He couldn't do that interview 2 days later. It had to be on signing day. It's outrageous. It's outrageous. It is what it is. And
it's like it's going and like being married and then going and getting married and going on a honeymoon with a different chick, and then she dumps you and then you come back to your original wife. Yeah, it's like, huh? Doesn't make any sense. I know that was amazing. That was great talk. Winnie Watkins is a guy that was at camp related to Sammy, correct?
Yes, and
Or
I don't know
is
how,
it?
so I'm not even going to try to
Yeah.
butcher that.
Yeah.
Um, his dad, was at camp with Winston. Everybody calls him Winnie, and
Mhm.
man, what a talent that kid was. And he's a 2025 recruit.
Yeah.
He's still a baby. He's not even shaven yet. He was the best receiver I saw in camp last year, though. I mean, he was
Wow.
dynamic. I mean, he just looked like a perfect slot right now. Now he's going to grow
Mhm.
up. He was just coming off. When I saw him, he was just coming off his freshman year of high school. It
Mhm.
was June of his freshman year, so he's got 3 more years of high school to go. And he's Carnell Tate's roommate at IMG. Carnell's his mentor. So I know he's committed to A&M, but a
Yeah.
freshman from Florida committed somewhere. Yeah, what could go wrong there?
Yeah. And you said he's a 25.
2025. Yeah,
Okay, he's going to be a sophomore, yeah, because Tyler
yes,
Atkinson is a 2026. Yeah, it's
the
crazy. We're
baby.
talking about 2026, but yeah, he looks the part. He's a good looking
Oh,
joker. It'd be interesting to see how he does. And the funny, the interesting thing is, and I'm not going to always go back to me, but like when I was his age, I weighed 205, 210, like going into my sophomore years. And then I go to 250 my junior year. Then I go to 270 my senior year. So it's like, and I know he's not going to gain weight like that, but it's like
no, no.
the physical development of these kids is always, it's just crazy as these kids go year over year.
No, he's going to grow, and he's at IMG, so he's got the best training, the best weight program, the best coaching. I mean, he's in a great spot to just end up a superstar. And like I say, he was at Ohio State camp, and as soon as that camp was over, he had his offer within about 5 minutes. I mean,
That's
it was a no-brainer offer. I mean,
yeah,
he's special,
yeah,
special
yeah.
kid.
So some of these guys they're just different cats. SME, I put JJ up. JJ JoJo. There's
Yeah,
Q Fletcher. I mean, anything new from our good friends from Brett and I think Gino's kid's gonna win the starting quarterback job with Seattle. So that's kind of cool.
wow, wow,
Yeah. I know he's
great,
gonna beat out
great.
Drew Lock, and that's I root for Gino just because I met his dad.
Yeah,
His dad looks younger than Gino Smith, the quarterback, does.
he
But
does.
yeah, it's funny, but anything on Mark Fletcher? You said there's a little bit of smoke. I mean, obviously the Hurricanes are throwing
They
every
won.
dime. Yeah, they're getting the yachts loaded up with money to drop off at his house, I'm sure. But
Yeah, they want Mark Fletcher, and I don't blame them. I would too. And
mhm,
now the way things have gone for Ohio State this cycle look like Richard Young or Justice Haynes, and that didn't pan out. I mean, they need Mark Fletcher.
yeah,
They need
oh
him.
yeah,
He's a heck of a player. He is a talent. When they got Mark's commitment and they were still chasing Richard Young, Justice Haynes, and those guys, that's when I was writing. This is not a B guy. This is an
hmm
A guy. If you get Richard Young, you got an A plus guy. But Mark
hmm
Fletcher is a standalone recruit. He's Carlos Hyde, is who he
hmm
is, and a good
hmm
character. Carlos Hyde. He's Mark Fletcher's a good. I mean, on the money, sunny type of kid.
yeah, yeah,
No knock on Carlos Hyde, but he didn't go to Fork Union by choice. So they got to keep Mark Fletcher. And a good sign is that he's coming to the Notre Dame game, with Carnell, Ennis, Cedric Hawkins. So,
yeah.
but you're going to worry about that one until, until the facts comes through on Wednesday morning. I mean, Miami wants him bad. And, we'll see how that goes. I mean, money's the great equalizer. We've never had to deal with money there's always been money, dirty money in
Yep.
recruiting, but now it's above board.
hmm
And, I think we could see some craziness, before we get to mid-December, the first signing day. I think things could
Oh
be out of
yeah.
hand. And I won't be surprised if a lot of kids this year, I think the average is like 75% sign on the first signing day.
Uh
I don't know, man. I could see some kids waiting, and then let NIL take over until the second signing period. If you don't sign and you're a stud in that first period, you are going to be so desired going into that second signing day. I mean, and there could be some NIL opportunities that set you up for life.
Yeah, and I don't blame any of these kids. Like if you're some of these 5 stars, Mateo, some of these kids that are kind of waiting until the second signing day, because if it's kind of like if you miss out on getting the toy you want on Christmas Eve, the second signing day is like Christmas Day. So you
Yeah.
can if you don't get the defensive ends or the running backs or you want, and there's still some guys out there that are unsigned, then all of a sudden you kind of get to recalibrate your salary
Yeah.
cap dollars and say, well, we didn't get these 3 guys, but these guys are still out there, so let's give them double the original offer or
Yeah.
whatever.
Sometimes on Christmas Day, grandma comes over late and hands you Christmas money. So you got more money to spend.
Yeah, you get the Red Rider BB gun or whatever you wanted.
No
So
doubt.
it's going to be fascinating. Like this is a great time for message boards, because I'm telling you, like recruiting is not
No.
static at all. It is always craziness, and it's good for us because we like talking about craziness. So, well, Bank, man, I appreciate you so much. It's a great show. Get Phil Steele tomorrow. So have a good night, my man. I appreciate you.
Yep. Anytime, bud.
All right, brother. I'll see you. That being said, we are we are growing like crazy. The message board game is really fun right now. We really have just this flow of people and this excitement due to the Notre Dame game, due to it being training camp, updates, scrimmages. It is just a wild time right now. So if you enjoyed the show, please leave us a like, subscribe to the channel. Comment which recruit do you want to help round out this class. It could be multiple recruits. I'm sure that some of you guys want an extra running back, some of you guys want an extra defensive end. Obviously everybody wants offensive guards and tackles, especially tackles, but comment who you want. But again, as always, we appreciate you guys enjoying this content, watching it to the end. It's a blast to do. Bank is the best, so I'm so excited to be working and doing these with them. So appreciate you guys as always. Thank you so much, Scoop family. Thank you, Buckeye Nation. Appreciate you guys. We are about 2 weeks from kickoff, so you guys better get ready. So that being said, you guys have a great rest of your day. Go Bucks.